Okay, so just to understand the uh, different kind of vulnerability in different systems, we can try to understand in a little bit more detail one by one. The agriculture ecology is very much related to food security, and that's why the agriculture sector is highly vulnerable to climate change concerns. To understand it, we must understand the food system, which is in different country or different even states of a country may be differently managed. Situations, as we discussed in the adaptation and mitigation, that the situation of management, situation of any sector in that part of the country or that country is also very, very significant to determine the strategy for adaptation and mitigation. In Indian context, if we talk about agriculture and food security, we have to understand the complications of Indian agriculture. So, let us try to understand how these complications can be tackled, which are additional factors to climate change related problems. Global, when we talk about global food security sometimes is misunderstood with production of food, means high food availability, high food productivity. But it is not just high food productivity. It is a condition related to the availability of food and individuals' accessibility and affordability to it. At 1974 World Food Conference, the term food security was defined with an emphasis on supply. Food security, they said, is the availability at all times of adequate, nourishing, diverse, balanced, and moderate world food supplies of basic foodstuffs to sustain a steady expansion of food consumption and to offset fluctuations in production and prices. So you just can see that this is a holistic definition of food security, which includes so many things other than the food productivity, where maximum emphasis is given by the mainstream agriculture system. Later, definitions added demand and access issues to the definition. The final report of the 1996 World Food Summit states that food security exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to food sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Mechanism to improve food security is conducting formative research on the political, economic, social, behavioral, and other factors that influence food insecure population. Providing technical assistance to government agencies and its implementing partners in the design and implementation of their food security focused programs. Providing technical assistance to government agencies for the monitoring and evaluation of programs, including development of indicators and tools, capacity building, and monitoring and evaluation, and assistance with reporting the data analysis. So these are various mechanisms through which food security, which is largely to provide food, basic food in nutritious way to uh, to entire population with their access and affordability can be done. A community enjoys food safety when all people at all time have access to nutritious, safe, personally acceptable and culturally appropriate foods produced in way that are environmentally and socially just. Five dimensions to food security are food availability, food accessibility, food stability, food contaminations, food utilization. Food security must be considered through a food system lens, which includes food production, food processing and packaging, food distribution and retailing, and food consumption. Well, a recent data indicate that not that recent, it is to 2011 FAO data, which indicate that actually the different kind of food produced are not exactly balanced. Something which is required more is produced in less amount, like vegetables and fruits. Something like which required less as nutritious food is produced more, like whole grains. So to provide a balanced food, we have to see the balance between what is required and what is produced, and the shift in production system is required to make the required food produced. Well, we are talking about the impact of climate change on agriculture. It is very, very important for the present and future discourse on food security. But the climate change is a set of impacts which we have studied and which we have discussed in detail. The prime concern is about rising temperature, unidirectional increase in temperature, which is considered as global warming. So, even increase in temperature does not mean same to every area, every crop, every region, every country. In North India, rise of mean temperature by 2 to 3 degrees centigrade will cause reduction in duration of wheat crop, loss of 6 to 7 million tons of wheat every year. Siberia in northern Canada, a small rise in temperature like this, prolonged duration of the crop, and there will be increase in crop yield per unit area. Child nutrition status in urban India is very different. India is not a homogeneous society. So in different countries, you can just see the proportion of child under 5, 5 years age who are underweight is very different. In Assam, it is 21%. In Andhra, it is just 28.4%. In Sikkim, it is 12%. In West Bengal, it is 26%. In Manipur, it is 13% only. And in Maharashtra, it is 30%. Madhya Pradesh, even it goes up to 36.5%. And in Bihar, it is probably highest, which goes to 37.5%. Green revolution is seen as a solution to food security. Uh, it has certain advantage. By that time, in fact, when Green Revolution was adopted, a lot of famines were there, and by that time the food availability was very less because of low productivity and problems in uh, agricultural agronomic management, non-availability of irrigated uh, land. The Green Revolution in India refers to a period of time when agriculture in India changed to an industrial system due to the adoption of modern methods and technology such as high yielding variety, seeds, tractors, irrigation facilities, pesticides, fertilizers, etc. This was part of the larger green revolution started by Norman Borlaug, which leveraged agricultural research and technology to increase agricultural productivity in the developing world. Within India, this started in the early 1960s and led to an increase in food grain production, especially in Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh during the early phase. The main development was higher yielding varieties of wheat and rust resistant strains of wheat. There has been claimed advantages of green revolution, and there are claimed disadvantages too. It resulted in high production. It resulted in farm land improvement. It resulted in uh, the establishment of new industries for seed, fertilizers, and pesticides. And new dams were established, which created new jobs. And India paid back loans, improved India's credit worthiness, and exported agricultural manpower to countries like Canada. But it resulted in agro-ecosystem damage, food contamination, soil fertility, and decline in water table. It increased input cost, borrowing, and losses to farmers in disasters and epidemics, promoted monoculture, superweeds, and superpests. And about 70% of wheat, 35% rice, and 20% millet and corn crops area used high yielding variety seeds, needed more water, more fertilizer, more pesticides, more fungicides, etc. The fertilizer requirement enhanced very high just because of green revolution. Out of whatever fertilizer is used, a very huge amount of fertilizer is lost because the utilization efficiency is not that good. This shows a very uh, less less than 50% fertilizer efficiency is there in most of the soil for most of the crop system. There are recorded evidences that from agricultural field there are leaching losses of nutrients where the nutrients which leach out go to water and contaminate water. Then there are gaseous emissions from agricultural fields. These are recorded evidences which build the greenhouse gases and global warming. Well, to manage it, we have to understand the problems related to income and expenditure of farming families in India. An average, and this is a report by Arjun Sen Gupta Commission, and the situation has probably not been changed much, where it is shown that the average income in the family, uh, farmer's family, the highest in large families is large landholders is 9667, and lowest is landless laborers, that is 1380. Expenditure is average in landless labor family it is 2,297 and in large families it is 6,400 large landholders 6,418 in 2007. But they are only 6% which have some savings. Most of them, the 39% landless, 36% submarginal, and 31% marginal are having debit each year. Their income is less and their expenditure is more. Sector-wise employment trends during high growth period uh, can be seen with this regards. This is also a decade-old record, but situations have not changed much. It is total employment growth in agriculture has down now maximum. If we see top 10 most sustainable countries in agriculture, India is nowhere. In terms of environmental health, in terms of burden of diseases, in terms of air, water, ecosystem volatility, air, water, biodiversity, forestry, fisheries, agriculture, and climate change. In all these parameters, India does not figure in top 10 countries. Indian non-marginal farmers are different and Indian marginal farmers are different. They are more educated, they have more facilities, and they have better mechanized or semi-mechanized farming. In contrast, the marginal farmers, they are illiterate and semi-literate, politically less active, largely devoid of communication and transport facilities, awareness level is low, no finance for agricultural inputs, low risk bearing ability, semi mechanized or manual farming. Indian farming households or and agriculture policy, if we look on that, the national policy of farmers includes all cultivators, share croppers, tenants, agricultural workers, and livestock rearers as farming households. There are several measures that go towards providing income security for farming households, like pricing policy, procurement and marketing support credit, agricultural insurance, disaster compensation, and support for sustainable agriculture. Agricultural policy has certain practice gaps. These are there is need to focus more on the economic well-being of the farmers rather than just on production. As per the Arjun Sen Gupta Commission report, real income of farmers are really very low, with the average being rupees 2,150 per family per month. It is lower than the average expenditure, estimated at 2,770 per month per family. Even at such below poverty consumption level, the average farmer spends more than its earning and get it into debit each month. Another second gap is for many decades since 1960s, the focus of agricultural policy incentives and support system were geared towards higher productivity by incentive intensive use of chemicals, water, and responsive hybrid varieties of the cereals. It resulted in national food sufficiency, high cost of crop cultivation, even when cost of ecosystem services and ecological degradations, which led to unsustainability in production was not counted, has gone unaffordable to farmers, and the recent climate crisis is adding the sufferings very significantly. Labor and other input costs increased, but cost of agrarian products was controlled with other criteria. Therefore, the farmers are at the losing end all the time, and the new generation is going away from practicing agriculture. Third gap is even high growth period of 2004 to 2009, only 2 million net new jobs were created, but the working age population has increased by 55 millions. Most of the jobless people related to agrarian families are rural based, largely unskilled or semi skilled, and they end as laborers in developing sectors of cities in search of better alternatives. The aim of the policy is to stimulate attitude and action in terms of improvement in the income of farm families. So, not only to meet their consumption requirements, but also to enhance their capacity to invest in farm related activities is a difficulty for them. Agriculture, the fourth gap is growing cost of cultivation along with weakened support system. Lack of remunerative prices and public investment has meant that farming become high risk occupation, especially for small farmers and tenant farmers. There is unaddressed ecological crisis in agriculture in many parts of the country are adding the agrarian crisis very seriously. The deep distress in the farming community has resulted in the situation where almost 16,000 farmers continue to commit suicide every year, which is a civilized humanist society cannot accept. The fifth gap in agriculture policy and practices, on the other hand, the government spends thousands of crores every year in the name of farmers. For example, rupees 76 crore was spent as loan waiver in 2008. Rupees 25,000 crores was allotted for Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana in 2007 to 12, and so on. There is no accountability of policymakers and executive machinery to ensure that these expenditures result in higher net income for farmers and improvement in rural and agrarian environment. The missing links are there. The first missing link is the contribution of agriculture in net GDP is dropping down rapidly. Rural youth is migrating as non-agricultural laborers and farmers are overburdened with labor and other input costs in agriculture. Yield is getting stagnant or declining in spite of heavy resources, input and overloading of chemical fertilizers, pesticides and weedicides. Soil is getting less fertile and water table is falling down. Weeds and disease incidences and intensities are increasing over heavy loading of chemical pesticides and weedicides and also because of climate change, global warming. Value of land is increasing but value of agricultural practices are decreasing. Income of farming household is decreasing and farmers are getting more debt year by year. Farmer suicide are increasing. The recent climate change will likely to have direct impacts on plant and animal growth and food processing and distribution network and indirect impacts on social, economic and political structures. The timing of impact is important and certainty of impact is important. So some some latter certain uncertainties are there. Some gradual, some sudden uncertainties are there. Some models, so high uncertainties. Increased CO2 concentration in atmosphere, high CO2 enrichment is expected to increase crop productivity. However, it also increases temperature and decrease availability of water, which affect the crop productivity negatively. Ocean productivity could be declined due to acidification. High temperature can have longer growing seasons and increased productivity in high latitude as long as temperature increase up to 2 to 3 degrees centigrade. Crop losses and decline in productivity in low altitude will be there. Unpredictable effects in lakes and oceans will be there. Less winter dying but increased thermal stress for livestock and possible disruption of transportation lines due to wildfires will be there. The changes in precipitation will cause reduction in arable land in areas with decreased precipitation. Challenges capturing water in areas with increased or unchanged precipitation and decline in aquaculture in area of decreased precipitation will be there. Pests and diseases will increase. Little is knowledge at this point is there, but it is expected to decrease. Earlier spring activity, greater winter survival, and expansion of ranges are expected. Extreme events will increase. Crop failure or reduced yields, livestock, and disruption of transportation lines can happen, and rising sea levels will eliminate and salinization of arable land in some coastal regions, which are the major impact of climate change on agriculture aspect. 2016 was the considered as hottest year, and it was recorded uh, and published in Nature. So, a strong 2015-16 El Nino warming events in the Pacific Ocean contributed to record temperature high, which are driven by rising atmospheric concentration of greenhouse gases. So, climate change, climate variability, and related problems are we have already discussed are going to happen in future, like abrupt high intensity rainfall in shorter duration, drought and water scarcity, melting of glaciers, increased water level in sea, decrease in fresh water due to high losses, decrease in food productivity, decrease in health related problems, increase in abiotic and biotic stresses. So crop production relies on a balance of temperature and precipitation, soil composition and atmospheric carbon dioxide. Adoption needs in Indian agriculture are certainly required, like new optimizations for eco-friendly nutrients and pest management practices with science, technology, and innovation interventions. Use of low tillage, low water using irrigation, strengthening natural and man-made water harvesting systems, interrupting flow of small rivers with small soil dams for better percolation of surface water to groundwater, enhance water tables by Tarun Bharat Sun can be seen. Shifting towards mixed cropping, climate resilient and low water consuming coarse grains and underutilized crops, reintroducing them into main diet as new food forms will be required. Protected and multi-tier structures for vegetable pulses and elite commercial crops will be required to ensure optimal utilization of each part of crop produced by use of precious natural resources in developing diverse small and cottage industries for processing and packaging of new food and non-food agro products and generate rural employment will be required, and avoiding monoculture and invasive varieties and conserving locally adopted diversity types will be required. Use of more organic manure to promote soil carbon sequestration and reduce release of emission of nitric oxide, sulfur oxides from chemical fertilizer use is required. Promotion of agroforestry and horticultural trees and high biomass food and non-food crop diversity for higher CO2 sequestration and managing farm temperature will be required. Creating new designed artificial ecosystems or pockets in barren land, pond banks, riverine and riparian belts, and community wasteland to enhance greenhouse gas sequestrations and to provide community level resources and ecosystem services are required. Recreating ponds, seasonal tributaries, and main rivers for water conservation and rainwater harvesting will be required. The community managed efforts in India has also been done. In situ water harvesting has been done by Subhas Sharma and his group, who is innovative farmer from Yavatmal district, Maharashtra. Then in Inabvi village, which is considered as an organic village in Warangal district of Andhra Pradesh, done by Dr. Ramanjanelu and his group, have shifted to uh, complete organic farming system, and farmers are happy with this system. Uh, Center for Sustainable Agriculture, Secunderabad, Telangana, has motivated the farmers in large area in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Maharashtra for practicing non-pesticide management of crop diseases. That CSA claims for the success of the management system for more than log farmers. There are so many successful stories are claimed throughout the world by organic farmers. However, unfortunately, all these community initiatives are not accepted by the mainstream agricultural establishments like agricultural, university, research institutions, and expansion systems, which dismiss saying all these are unscientific. In Haryana itself, an experiment on Keet Saksharta mission has been successfully driven in many districts. Non-pesticide management has been successful in many areas. Pollinator-based crop yield production has been done in West Bengal and many areas. Beekeeping has been found a very successful experiment to increase agricultural productivity in many areas. So if we see the agrarian crisis in Indian context, there are policy crises, small land holdings, poor rural economy, high population load, low risk taking capacity of farmers, lack of adequate STI interventions at farmers end, unaccountable, incompetent and inadequate government support system, increasing incidences of heat drought flood diseases and storms due to emerging climate change incidences, and lack of small scale industries for local input support and unavailability of adequate market linkages. So, organic principles may contribute to a valuable framework for a future sustainable agricultural production. Uh, Certain innovative technologies can be opted like rhizoengineering, where selected microbes or microbial consortia can be incorporated in agroecosystem as plant nutrients, biocontrol agent, biodegradation for organic, the agent for biodegradation of organic uh, plant and animal waste, and biodegradation of pesticides and other bioremediation of pesticides and other toxic agrochemicals. So design, production, and availability of innovative tools and machines based on renewable energy consumption, low cost, and with farmers friendly operations will be required. Establishment of storage and food processing units will be required. Adequate networking and incorporation of mobile based IT services for linking production with marketing will be required. An IT based information delivery system for forecasting and disaster management services will be required. developing system to functional education of farmers and agricultural laborers involved in food production system will be required. So these are various microbes which are used. Well, these are some of our own initiative which show a good productivity with organic systems. These are pictures of multi-tile farming, which has been a future technology where in less area more productivity can be obtained. These are protected agriculture. Many European countries have adopted it. These are protected agriculture. Conservation agriculture can be alternative where low tillage activities and drip irrigation can be opted. Then biocontrol and non-pesticidal management of pests and diseases will be required. And there can be nutritional amendment for more nutritious food, uh, where selection from natural varieties can be done. Conventional breeding can help in getting better nutrients, and genetic engineering can also help in production of better quality food. So, enhancing crop value for attracting farmers and entrepreneurs in agriculture is also required, where high value foods like certain elite varieties of rice, wheat, maize, aromatic and medicinal plants, and uh, adaptation of innovative and producer friendly, affordable new technologies can be there. Market oriented food production can be there, and designing new agro ecosystems can be there. We have done some work on these aspects where we have designed ecosystem of different kind of aromatic grasses, and it is working well. We have published papers also. Storage losses are very significant, and it has to be reduced as in maximum as is possible. Market linkages of farmers has to be established, and then people can be made aware with certain successful experiments, and they can be helped by those who know the things in a better way for their betterment. So this way, even with climate change problems, we can go for having a good success in adopting and mitigating our food security in in spite of the threat of the climate.